I am looking. We have yourself and we have Ray and we have Natalie, and we are waiting. I know that Member McCulca and Member Rice had said that they would not be able to attend, so we are just waiting either for Cindy Hoover or Dr. Anderson.
All right.
And I see Cindy Hoover getting on the call now.
Hello.
Hi, Cindy.
Hello.
Carmen, do you want to wait a little bit or charge forward?
If you're all right, my computer doesn't quite say 3 o'clock straight up.
Okay.
I just got a note. It sounds like maybe is Dr. Anderson, are you on? Oh, I think we have everyone.
All
Chair
right.
Bean.
And I apologize, Carmen. I don't have a full screen in front of me. We have folks from WSU
Yes,
on.
we do.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, I'll call the January 8th of 2026. Happy New Year to everyone of the Technical Education Authority Program and Curriculum meeting to order. Hopefully, you've had time to look at the meetings from November 6th. And by the way, thank you, Cindy, for chairing that meeting in my absence. I'm sure it went a lot smoother than what's about to happen today. So, um, are there any corrections or additions to the November 6th committee meeting minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
This is Cindy. So moved. Oh, for second, whichever way.
I think I heard both there. Does anyone disagree or anyone not want to approve the minutes? If not, we'll consider the minutes of the November 6th committee meeting approved. All right, Sharman, we'll transition to item 3, the consideration of WSU's proposal for a Cert B, Associate of Applied Science and Heavy Equipment. And then after we get through talking about that, we can talk about Cert B and Associate of Applied Science and Masonry Construction.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Welcome back to the new year, everyone. So I just wanted to take a moment here and provide some overall context that applies to both of these programs because these, once again, are slightly different than our standard new program proposals. Last spring, you might remember the Southeast Kansas Career and Technical Education Center, uh, called Southeast Kansas CTEC. They transitioned working with Fort Scott Community College to working with WSU Tech, and that was effective for this current academic year of 2026. So in that process, WSU Tech was working very quickly to try to provide the necessary coursework for that transition. And they approached KBOR staff in May to look at possibly introducing a masonry track or concentration within their existing construction program, and then also introducing a heavy equipment operator track or concentration within the existing mobile equipment technology program, both of which have already been approved. So while these occupations are very similar, certainly related, but they are distinct occupations with different requirements for job entry. And so they should be technically separate technical programs. Fortunately, at that point, Pittsburgh State University and WSU Tech had already laid the groundwork for the out of service area agreements. And so, as we were working through this, working through the extremely tight turnaround, both proposals including a significant amount of credit hours in brand new coursework that had not been previously reviewed, and taking into consideration, of course, that KBOR staff does not have sole authority to approve new technical programs for state funding. We wanted to be sure that the solution that we created would align with KBOR policy and would be something that if we needed to replicate it in the future, we would be able to. So what we did is we approved their submitted courses and the program modifications for AY 2026, and that approval was specifically for the Southeast Kansas CTEC location and those students specifically. This provided WSU Tech the time they needed to submit the new programs using our standard process. That also means that, of course, these programs are available for WSU Tech to offer in their own home area with all students that they support. So we wanted to just provide that background and context and a couple of other items that are applicable to both programs. Like I mentioned, the initial reason for the program proposals is the work with Southeast Kansas CTEC, but they will be offering these programs to adult learners as well in their own home area. So this is why you see the Promise Scholarship approval request. They do not plan to charge any Excel and CTE fees to the high school students, so we have no fees to look at today. And I would just also mention that for both programs, our 10-day comment period started on December 12th and extended through December 30th, and we had no comments received. So jumping into the programs themselves, unless anybody has any questions about any of that background information. And
Sharman,
here, go ahead.
this is Mike.
Yeah.
This maybe we can get to this when we visit with WSU Tech, but it appeared all the support letters were coming from Southeast Kansas, obviously an advisory board there. If and it sounds like they can offer this in the Wichita region. I don't know. Do we need support letters, industry ties there?
I would say that at this point, if we did decide that we wanted that, I don't think that WSU Tech would have any challenges providing
I
letters
agree.
from local employers. These happen to be programs that do not have a lot of other institutions already offering them.
Right.
So we could certainly do something like that, but I would venture that that probably wouldn't be necessary.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there. But uh, like I said, we could. I don't think that that would be challenging at all. Neither of these programs are offered in very many institutions, just a
Right.
couple.
Right.
So
Well, and one of the industries that wrote a support letter has locations all across the United States, so including Wichita.
absolutely, absolutely. So jumping into our heavy equipment program, as you mentioned, they're looking at 35 credit hours for a Cert B, 60 credit hours for an Associate of Applied Science. And this program would start next fall. Looking at the program demand information, this occupation is a high demand, high wage occupation based on our most recent listing. I've listed there all of the information that we typically do for the Department of Labor statistics. We've got the annual change in employment, median wage, openings, and so forth. Since the Department of Labor started to include in their occupational demand listing all occupations in Kansas, I added the occupational demand ranking there because I thought that that might also be helpful context for the authority as you look at programs. This particular occupation is 71 out of 796. Again, another reason why I don't think that there would be much difficulty in having that demand in Wichita as well. The typical education for entry is a high school diploma or equivalent, and then moderate on-the-job training. And then when we look at the Lightcast postings, when we did not include postings with no education listed, because that's been our habit, and that's something else that I did a little different here. So all the job postings with an education level listed of some sort. There were 198 unique postings from November 24 to November 25. 461 total, so you can see that they had to repost those jobs. And then the annual median advertised salary was $45,600. The second sentence that I added there is including job postings with no education level listed, because it is a very, very different data set when we do include all job postings, even when no education level is listed. And I will tell you that folks will also tell you that I do push back pretty hard on the institutions to provide information about employment and wages at each job level that they're proposing, because the assumption is if we need an exit point, that there is a job waiting for the student at that level of training. So I will continue to push back on that, but I wanted the authority to know too that when we look at all the job postings for the entire state for that same year, there are 638 unique jobs posted, 1,662 total postings. The advertised salary is slightly higher at 45,600, and 69% of the job postings listed no education level requirement for entry, because I think that that's helpful context when we're looking at these. Concerning the CLNA, they explained that the related occupations of paving, surfacing, tamping equipment operators, and so forth, it was a pathway that was not currently offered but needed in the region based on the demand. We do have 3 letters of support for this program in your packet, and supports and commitments include interviewing graduates, equipment donations, internships, and serving on the advisory committee. In this program's case, there are 2 institutions currently offering this program, and you have academic year 2024 KTIP data available in your packet. And concerning collaboration, WSU Tech explained that they collaborated very closely with Fort Scott Community College through this entire transition to make sure that it was seamless for the program and for the students, of course. Concerning funding, the initial cost of the proposed program, they're estimating at $41,000 total. That's $1,000 for instructional supplies and $40,000 for half of an existing full-time faculty member, because the program is sharing the instructional personnel with the masonry program. And like I said, I know that we have several folks on from WSU Tech. We would stand for questions.
Thank you, Charmin. And I apologize, I can't see everyone on the call, but does anyone from WSU Tech want to add some additional background or narrative to what Charmin has already done?
This is Jennifer Seymour, Vice President for General Education and Applied Technologies at WSU Tech. I don't know that we have a whole lot to add other than we have added some personnel that are specifically in place to support the faculty and students there at CTech, and also to grow adult enrollment at CTech. We have room and capacity there to also educate some adults. So we're hoping to be able to do that, as well as just the high school students that are there during the day. I also have Jesse Lane. He's our Dean for Applied Technologies on the call, and he can help to fill in some blanks if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions from the committee members?
Yes, Mike, I have a question, just a clarifying question. So when we go through the exercise, the multi-agency exercise of identifying what occupations and credentials, certifications to put on the Excel and CTE list, that students and schools report back on what they've earned. we just added heavy equipment operator, so I know it's very much needed and supported in both agriculture and construction. So from what I understand from what was just presented, business and industry are saying they're recognizing OSHA 10 and NCCER core. So what we approved earlier from the TEA was the heavy equipment operations level 1. So should we also add the NCCER core so the students can be reported and counted as part of this program?
I would say not necessarily. The NCCR core is really truly more carpentry based. It is valuable for them to have a well-rounded education in it. So we're providing that opportunity throughout the entirety of the program. However, for the students that are strictly wanting to learn just the operation, I'd say NCCR core is valuable, but not necessarily necessary to be successful in the career of heavy equipment operation.
So we want to make sure that when they complete the program, they're recognized for having the credentials business industry want. So I just wanted to make sure that we had the accurate representation for that SOC code because we want the students to be recognized for what they've completed. So if we need to change what we've got on the Excel and CTE, that's a question I have for the group. I would just want to make sure that when they complete, they're recognized, they're reported, and if business and industry say this is, what is needed for the job, that they get recognized for having that accomplishment too.
As a point of clarification, Jesse, would you mind, did you, in your discussions with your advisory committees, did they speak to, because obviously during those discussions, you would talk about the certifications that they want to recognize. Did they speak to that heavy equipment operations level through NCCER?
Not necessarily. They are more concerned with the skill set than the certifications. So for this particular area, it is a lot more about, can you operate the equipment safely, which is where like the OSHA 10 having just some general safety, equipment awareness, experience. So really we're leaning on NCCR as our curriculum. So that's where the core comes in, because students can get some of the carpentry courses as a part of this, as well as, level 1, level 2 with equipment operations. So really the curriculum of NCCR, which is what we utilized for them to review, like, this is the outcomes, this is what NCCR provides. And most of them that have the experience from the construction carpentry side are aware of NCCR, so they're comfortable with that as a curriculum. But we're not hearing them saying we need this credential from NCCR for employment.
Okay. So Natalie, to your point, this may be a situation where we do want to still recognize that as as an appropriate certification, as far as Excel and CTE, qualifying credentials and so forth. But if business and industry is not, forgive me, piping up and saying, hey, we want to see students with this certification, we probably wouldn't go back to business and industry and say, hey, we think you need to recognize this certification, if that makes sense.
Right. So I wondered if we wanted to have it on there. So like if people were expecting students to complete it, if it wasn't, if you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I was just getting expert advice on, just so to guide the students if that needed to be reported, since we did approve that.
Right. No,
Thank you.
absolutely. I think we probably want to talk about that a little bit more in that other discussion, because our recognition of those industry certifications doesn't always necessarily mean that every business and industry partner is going to be looking for them. I'd like to believe that it is, but it may not. but I think it's a really, really excellent thing to make sure of, especially Jesse, as you guys are using NCCER as your core. At a certain point that may change and business and industry may say, hey, we do want to see that specific certification in your graduates to make sure that they do have that sign off and that training.
This is Mike. I think we could go down a deep rabbit hole here. I mean, everyone knows that we need to increase the number of certifications that our students are getting under Excel and CTE, and this might be a good way to attack that, and likely for a different discussion than approving this program.
Right. Yeah, this is Ray. First of all, I agree with Mike. I think that if these programs are presented in Wichita, then you would, I think, be mindful to seek letters of support from those in this area, first of all. And the second thing, I wondered, what are you getting for $1,000 on supplies or what in your report, Jesse?
Is that under consumables or initial cost? I can't recall.
It was under initial cost it was instructional supplies and technology. And in the application itself, I don't think that you identify if they're consumables or something else.
Yeah, primarily that's most likely miscellaneous consumables that the instructor might need throughout the year. This program being a pre-existing program, there's not a whole lot of initial investment that CTEC is having to do into it outside of they're doing some things with simulators, but we as an institution aren't involved with that piece. So there's very little initial investment or ongoing investment right now with the program based on the way they're doing it. So I believe that's some fundamental basic supplies for starting up.
Ray, I might be able to help there. I'll work on all of these different submissions. We do use a number of $1,000 for every program that we submit. It is for instructional supplies, various things that an instructor might need, that maybe they were in a classroom that doesn't have consumable, I hate to say it, the basics of dry erase markers. And so we just put in a basic budgetary line of $1,000 for every.
Okay. I just wasn't sure what you were getting for $1,000. That seemed pretty low. But anyway, all right. Just a question.
Any other additional questions related to the heavy equipment operations program? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve WSU Tech's application for heavy equipment operator certification B and an Associate of Applied Science degree and place it on the consent agenda.
So
Thank you, Ray. Do we have a second?
Then that's Cindy, second.
Thank you, Cindy. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Sharman and WSU. All right, item 2, sticking with the same location, I assume, Sharman. So let's talk about the masonry construction request.
Excellent. Yes, we're looking at 38 credit hours for a Cert B and 68 credit hours for an Associate of Applied Science in Masonry. This particular occupation is a high wage occupation based on our most recent listing. But the occupational demand ranking, like I said earlier, I've included that there, and it's 373 out of 796. The annual openings being 54, annual median wage being 54.7, and the typical education for occupation entry being a high school diploma or equivalent and an apprenticeship. When we look at the Lightcast job postings, this is one where it was important to include the data for the job postings that did not include a minimum education level, because you can see there that we only had 4 postings under this occupation for the entire state for a year, when we did not include job postings with no education. The job postings then, when we included those with no education level listed, we have 38 unique postings across the state, 71 total, so that they had to repost in order to get the jobs filled. The advertised salary was $62,200, and we have 89% of the job postings listed that have no education listed as a requirement for entry into that occupation. On the CLNA, WSU Tech explained that this particular occupation was not evaluated, but it was part of the broader discussion of construction trades, which in general has too few concentrators relative to the number of job openings. We have 4 letters of support, and those supports and commitments include interviewing graduates, equipment donations, providing apprenticeships, and serving on the advisory committee. We have academic year 2024 KTIP for this program. We currently have one other institution offering it, that being Fort Scott. WSU Tech explained that much like heavy equipment, they worked very closely with Fort Scott Community College throughout the entire transition. And additionally, they mentioned that all faculty previously employed by Fort Scott in this program were hired at the time WSU Tech assumed responsibility for the program. And then on the cost and funding, we see the same data points of the $1,000 for instructional support, and then the $40,000 as we're sharing half of an existing full-time faculty member. And we would stand for questions.
Any additional comment from the WSU team?
I don't think we have anything else to add.
All right. Any questions or comments from the committee members? That was my awkward pause. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve WSU Campus of Applied Science and Technologies Masonry Construction Cert B in Associate of Applied Science and place it on the consent agenda.
Move.
Thank you.
Mike, before we do this is Ray. I'm just wondering, would there be any benefit and value in having this before the full TEA? And the reason I ask that is I don't know how many members fully understand or have knowledge of the relationship that between K-Tech and WSU Tech.
True.
And that's just a question.
Would there, I mean, we can do it either way. We can pull these off the consent agenda and discuss them, or maybe I could give a little background before we approve the consent agenda on the 22nd. I think is our next meeting.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, that would be fine. I just think that the full TEA, I don't know how many on our TEA really know that much about that relationship with WSU Tech and was it K-Tech?
Right. Oh, good point.
So, I mean, if
Right.
you handled it that way, I think that's fine. I just think the information needs to get out there.
Right. Nope. I'd be glad to do that. All right. We have a motion to approve the masonry construction Cert B and Associate of Applied Science and place it on the consent agenda. We have a second, I think. Any additional discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say aye. Motion carried. Perfect. And I will give a little summary before I'll go ahead and make the motion during the meeting on the 22nd to approve the consent agenda and just give a little background on that relationship. That's a great idea, Ray. All right, Sharman, item B, the Promise Act request for the same 2 programs we just discussed.
Yes, sir. WSU Tech's requesting approval for Promise Scholarship eligibility. Heavy equipment and masonry both fall under the advanced manufacturing and building trades categories. So they are eligible. Heavy equipment is high demand and high wage, and masonry is high wage. So they meet the requirements of the Promise statute currently.
Thank you, Sharman. Any questions from the committee? If not, and if no one objects, we'll bunch these two together. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the approval of these two programs, heavy equipment operator and mason construction, for the Promise Act scholarship, and place it on the consent agenda.
So move.
Thanks, Ray.
Second.
I think that was Cindy. Thank you, Cindy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed, please say aye. We'll consider that motion carried. Thanks again for everyone joining today. And again, happy 2026. Just a reminder, and I've alluded to it a little bit, our next full authority meeting is in person at KVOR on the 22nd. I'm sure we'll have a wonderful meeting, but in a wonderful lunch too, and camaraderie. And then also a reminder that our next committee meeting is February 5th. And Sharman, I'm not aware of anything teed up, but you might be for the 5th.
Not yet, but today is the date. So I do anticipate having a couple of programs.
Okay. So hint, we'll be meeting on the 5th. So thanks again, everyone. And if there's no objection, I'll pause a little bit. We'll consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks to the team from WSU Tech.
Yep, thank you for your time. And Mike, if you need anything from us on the background of how the CTEC relationship came to be, let us know and we can get something to you.
Yep, I was planning to reach out to you, Jennifer.
Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.